Here's just another bit of practice in taking care of sig figs when you're doing calculation. So here we have subtracting mixed with dividing. So I think a good first step is to just do the calculation and write down everything. I almost tried to do that on my cell phone. So I've got 232.99 minus 232.1. I could do that in parentheses, or I could put it in and press equals. I want it to finish the subtraction before I divide. And just to save a little time, I'm just going to write down what my calculator showed me when I did that. And then I'm going to divide by 5.3531 equals, and I'm going to write it all down. 0.166258803. Any questions so far? So what we need to do is we need to look at the subtraction separately from the division because the rules are different. In subtracting, we're looking at the fewest number of decimal places. So this number has 2 decimal places. This number only has 1 decimal place. So the result of the subtraction has 1 decimal place. So I'm going to underline the first decimal place. That's the last significant figure. I'm not going to round it, though. I used it in the equation. It's just there. Now, I took this number with, how many sig figs does that have? Not 2, not 3, 1. So, as it's written, there are 2 digits that appear to be significant figures, right? But I underlined the 8, and that's our little note to ourselves. That's my last significant figure. Anything after that, I'm just carrying along for the ride. It's not a sig fig. This has 1 significant figure. This one has 5 significant figures. 1 sig fig is fewer than 5, and so my answer needs to be rounded to 1 significant figure. That 0 before the decimal point does not count, so I'm rounding it there. And so what am I going to express this answer as? 0.2. Any questions? So this illustrates how you can't just look at this and come up with, oh, it's only got 1 sig fig. All those numbers had 4 or 5 sig figs, but the answer only has 1. Stuff like that happens when we add and subtract, especially subtracting. Okay, let's look at this one. Again, we want to do the math. 3.1410 times 2.4367. And I pressed equals. I'm just going to write that down since my calculator is showing it to me. It'll save me doing the calculation over again. So 7.6536747. And then from that number, I'm subtracting 23. Not 23. 2.34. It's kind of like 23, but then again, it really isn't. 5.3136747. So this is the result of the multiplication, and then from this number, I'm subtracting 2.34. How many significant figures would this result have if that was the end of our calculation? Well, if I take this number that has 5 sig figs and I multiply by this number that has 5 sig figs, the result should have 5 sig figs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the last significant figure. When I subtract now, I'm not looking at number of sig figs, I'm looking at number of decimal places. And so this one has 1, 2, 3, 4. The underlined digit is my last significant figure. I'm going to ditch everybody after that later. So I'm not going to count them. So there's 4 decimal places. This is 2 decimal places. So this answer needs to be rounded to 2 decimal places. And so I'm going to underline the second decimal place. And then when I round, the next digit, the digit, is less than 5. And so this is going to be 5.31. Any questions? When you've got mixed operations, you have to look at the results separately.